Welcome to The Driven Entrepreneur, where we sit down with visionaries, trailblazers, and entrepreneurs and discover why and how they do what they do. We'll get the backstory, plus plenty of life and business lessons along the way. Here's your host, Matt Brauning.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Driven Entrepreneur. It's Matt Brauning. I'm here with you with another Driven Entrepreneur each and every week because that's who you are. That's who you like hearing from. And today, it's no exception. If you are out there leading the charge in business, you want to hear inspiring stories, but we also want to get to the meat of how to make your walk a little bit better and a little bit easier. So things like productivity, things like motivation, time management. I love getting into that because that's part of what makes being a business owner actually fun and a good experience, so it doesn't take over your life and destroy your morale. With me today is Stacy Tuschl. She is an amazing entrepreneur, the author of the book, The Implementation Code. Stacy has done lots in her life, being a business owner since the age of 18, in her parents' backyard, turning that into a multi-million-dollar company. She's also the author and the founder of the Foot Traffic Formula, helping small businesses around the world to get more customers in the door. And her Foot Traffic podcast now has over 1 million downloads, frequently one of the top 30 podcasts on Apple. Amazing show. So make sure you check out the Foot Traffic podcast. Stacy, welcome to The Driven Entrepreneur. What's going on?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Hi. I love this is our standard welcome to the show and our standard thanks for having me. But I do appreciate that. I'm excited to get into a conversation with you. First off, everyone's not going to be able to see your face necessarily unless you're on YouTube, of course. But you're just like a bushel of energy. Stacy Tuschl is a bushel of energy. I
appreciate that. I love talking business. So this lights me up, and I'd rather be here than anywhere else talking business. So I'm super excited to just be helpful and serve in any capacity. Like I say, I'm always an open book. I don't promise to know everything, but I definitely promise to share what's working, what's not, and what I've experienced in business the last 19 years.
Well, speaking of the last 19 years, so you said you started your business at the age of 18. Was this a family business that you started, or was this just you living with your mom and dad?
This was me living with my mom and dad. I was a dancer in high school. I decided right out of high school that I was going to start teaching it for fun. It wasn't going to be a business. I was going to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee to actually just get a business degree to go work in somebody else's business. And that first summer, I had 17 kids come to my parents' backyard where I taught dance. In the winter, because I live in Wisconsin, so you can't stay in the backyard, a church donated their space to us for free because I thought it was cool what I was doing for the kids in our community. And within 3 years, I had 100 kids coming to my parents' backyard. And thankfully, I actually did grow up in a family business. We are excavators. We dig basements for houses here in Wisconsin. It's over 50 years old. My grandfather started it. My parents worked in the business. My grandparents worked in the business. So I had, without really realizing, I had like the right DNA to say, okay, I think I could actually do this. And they were the ones that said, I kind of feel like you have 100 people and you're not even spending money on marketing. Like this could be the thing you do instead of going and finding a job.
Right. Imagine if you actually spend time on marketing, what you could do with that.
What could I do? Yeah. And fast forward 19 years later, what I could do was get 1,000 kids, not in a backyard anymore. We have 2 custom built facilities for dance and music here in Milwaukee. We have about 50 plus employees. I do not work in the business at all whatsoever. I haven't taught a dance class in probably 15 years. And it is grossing over $1 million a year selling dance and music classes to like a 5-mile radius in our facility. So,
oh my gosh. So you're totally local with it.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So I want to start just back in that childhood side. So your parents were fully supportive of this entrepreneurial move. That's amazing.
Yeah,
and you have the family history. When you were a little girl, did you dream of like doing your own thing or being a dancer, or did you have a different dream? What were you thinking you were going to do when you grew up?
Yeah. So the crazy part about the story is if anybody listening knows anything about dance, these dancers start at like 3. And then they go on to do all of this after they've been doing it for 15 years.
Right.
My first dance experience was making the dance team in high school. And my first studio in a building was when I was 15 years old. So 3 years later, I was like, oh, I can totally do this myself. Like, no worry, no problem. And it wasn't because I was so amazing at dance. It was because I knew how to do business, but I didn't know that's what it was. So I never thought, oh, I'm going to be a dancer. But I was, looking back as a child, always in charge, being the captain, running the show, taking charge. And that's what I remember now, looking back, of going like, okay, this makes sense. But I didn't know dance was my passion at the time.
Yeah, so you just saw like I love you said just taking charge. You know, I'm
Yeah.
thinking like being a leader.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm owning it. I'm taking charge, telling people what to do. But there is something about like when you walk into a room or a situation or a group, and tell me if you relate to this, but it's like you see the invisible, the chaos, and you see the invisible structure that it can become, and you see
Yeah.
the talent of people and kind of puzzle pieces, and so you can just see that naturally. And right away in dance, you go, okay, I want to do that in dance as well. How long? Well, first off, doing $1 million a year and having 2 studios and all that stuff, what's the time period between the startup when you feel like you really started it versus you feel like, I don't know, maybe I've quote unquote made it or it's at least successful? What's
For
that time
sure.
period look like?
I actually, and I now today also have an online consulting business. So now I have 2 businesses that I've started up. And there's something both times magical about year 5, which no one wants to hear if they're like in year 1, because you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
But
that's
there
so
was
far away.
something, it does feel so far away, but I'm telling you, like, and maybe it's because they say like, X amount of people quit the first year and then X amount don't make it to 5 years. But at that 5-year mark, there's something about it where you get your voice, your message, who you're going to serve. You kind of like find your sweet spot.
There's some
Now,
experimentation that happens of like
for
some
sure.
successes, some failures, right?
Absolutely. It's not that you can't make money year 1 to year 4. It's just there was something of like, whoa, we have something here. This is going to be amazing, right? So trust me, there are definitely moments you can celebrate year 1 through year 4, but there was definitely something year 5 in both businesses where I was like, I didn't even know I was creating this, and now I can see everything in front of me.
And then, so from that point, you're like, okay, do you have the entrepreneur disease where once you love starting, but the following and the finishing is the harder thing for you? Or do you love following and finishing?
I don't know that I love it, but I know you have to be good at it. So I think I just do it.
Okay.
Does that make
So
sense?
yeah, you've almost like made the habit of it, but it's like
I
going to
mean,
the gym,
yeah, if you can't be a good finisher, I mean, good luck. I just don't know how that's going to be successful. So it's like, do I want to finish the book that I started? Do I want to finish the funnel I created? No, that's not the exciting part. But if I don't finish it, I'm not going to reap the rewards of the outcome is.
It's good. Look at that. You're already preaching right now. I like it. When you finish, that's where the rewards are, right?
Yeah.
They don't put the beer and fish and chips at the middle of the race. They put it at the end.
Right.
Or whatever it is you're wanting to fuel yourself with after a race. Anyways, so do you find yourself having, I know you have probably lots and lots of ideas. So I'm always fascinated by the entrepreneur who is a total visionary, has a ton of ideas, but at the same time has been consistently building one idea
Yeah.
time after time, year after year, bigger and bigger. For me, right, I imagine if I had a business that needed a studio, by the time I have one, I would feel like, oh, I have this idea, that idea. I wouldn't be able to hone it in and go, let me get a second location.
Yeah.
What keeps you on track with expanding the one idea while I know you've also gone on to other pieces? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. So I actually don't think I'm good at this part. I do think I want to like, oh, let's try this and let's add this. And I am the visionary for sure. I catch myself doing it and I slow myself back down.
Yeah.
Now, a second location, that was 10 years in that we added the second. So to be solid with one location for 10 years is still a pretty long time.
Well, I think
And
that's my point too. And after 10
yes,
years to not be bored, because now you've moved into podcasting, you moved into funnels, all these
yes,
different things, consulting.
yes,
It's easy to be like, well, my deepest passion isn't running the studio, although I love it, right? But it's going to sound wrong, but it's
yes.
boring because it's what it's what I did. It's not what I
Yeah.
want to do next, but you
It's
still
not
keep it
that it
going.
gets, yeah, it's not that it gets boring. It's that there's no more, and maybe this is boring, but there's no more growth left, like the
Yes.
extreme growth. at some point you start to not plateau, but you start to like the growth isn't there. Like we jumped, I remember, from like 100 to 300 kids. And then it was like 300 to 500. And then it was like at some point we've been consistently at around that 1,000 mark for a while. And at some point it starts to like the fun and the exciting part, the visionary part is just not as exciting as it was. So
That's
yes,
what
I
I'm
can see
looking
why you're
for. Yeah.
saying the boring. But if you leave it without putting maintenance into place,
There we go.
you will lose everything. So you
Say it.
can't leave it without setting up the systems, setting up the team, right? So when I say I have 2 businesses and people are like, oh, cool, I want to do 2 as well. And I'm like, well, how many people are in your first business? And you tell me it's you. And I say, I have 50. We're playing a different ball game. So
Right.
I don't want people thinking I'm giving you permission to have a second business when the first one is not self-run.
That's right. I love that. And when you said I don't work in the business at all, it doesn't mean you probably never step foot in the studios. You can go visit, you can say hi, you can have a leader meeting, you can do a retreat, you can pat a student on the back, whatever you're doing. But you don't have to run the accounting. You don't have to, if you leave and do podcasting or go on a trip to Europe, sales don't stop. Maintenance doesn't stop. Customer service doesn't stop. I loved your distinction too, Stacy, between it's the growth versus the maintenance phase, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so that's what I tried to mean by boring. It's like, what am I trying to describe? I get bored, but what it is I love the growth. I hate the maintenance, and I've learned to love the maintenance, but it's not what fuels me for sure. Do you have any tricks or hacks or concepts? How have you gotten yourself to follow through when you know that's not what lights you up?
Yeah.
Right?
I think you put somebody in the role that maintenance is their job and they fully understand that's what they're here to do. So when we hire somebody, the more clear I can be with, this is what I need from you. This is the personality I need. This is like what your day-to-day is going to look like. And I find out that you're a big visionary. You cannot be my maintenance, well-oiled machine person in HR.
Right.
It just isn't going to work, right? So when I find out I have a visionary, I'm thinking, great, where can they fit in marketing? Where can they be in the strategy? Where can they be in our launches? Not where can they be in the tedious everyday rinse and repeat. They'll never survive because they'll hate it, right? So I think it's really assessing that somebody likes the tedious rinse and repeat every day. That feels comfortable for them, right?
And it's hard to imagine that, isn't it? Because
It is.
as an entrepreneur, it's like everybody must be like me. And everybody must get bored if it's the same thing every day. But we forget there's different personalities in the world. Do you follow a like personality or communication profiling system like for yourself or in your companies?
Yeah. So we do use Myers-Briggs and we also use DISC as like a second to just, we're really just understanding who this person is. We're not hiring and firing based off of it. You can't discriminate based off of personality.
Sure.
But we're really trying to figure out, like, does this person naturally enjoy this job? Or are they just good at writing the blog posts? Like, is this something they're going to thrive and want to stay in long term? Because maybe they don't even realize, like, some of these people have never taken a personality test or been explained about what their personality is. So when I give somebody their first test ever and I explain who they are and what they like, and they're like, wow, like, that is what I like to do, right? All of a sudden we can say, you would thrive in a role like this. Would you be interested in experimenting with a sample project where you get to stay in your sweet spot? And we're uncovering people's like zone of genius that they didn't even know was a thing.
It's amazing. So what I'm hearing is would you have someone come in for an interview for position A and then go, position D might actually be a fit. Do you want to try it out?
100%.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I mean, imagine a world, right, where like every company actually thought this way and thought, let's get you in your zone of genius. Let's find a space, because there probably is a space where you have passion, you have talent, you have ability, and the rhythms fit your personality and your lifestyle. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, we have a girl. We actually just made her a temporary offer yesterday. We like her. We like everything about her. We don't have a role for her.
Yeah.
So we were sitting here going, well, what's something we could just give her temporarily as a contractor? Because we don't want to lose her because she's the right person.
Yes.
I don't know for what, but we're going to experiment to figure out what she is good at. And then from there, we'll make her a job offer when we figure out what it is.
We'll find a seat on the bus for her, or we'll make one if we have to.
Correct.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. It sounds a lot like the casting agent world too, where sometimes, actors think they're going in to pitch for a role, but it's like, no, they're going in to pitch themselves and to own what they were given. And very often the directors will say, gosh, that's not exactly what we're looking for here. You have the wrong color hair or whatever, but we love you. And then all of a sudden it's like, how about this other project? That's really good. So knowing what you have. Hey, do you have any, well, I guess that's pretty good hiring advice. Do you have any other hiring advice that comes to mind that you just talk about often? I'm sure you probably do.
Yes. I have hired, I can't even tell you. I mean, if I have 50 employees in the one business and we have 15 in foot traffic, but I've been doing this 19 years, and I was horrible in the beginning. So we had to fire all these people like crazy, right? Because you're like, oh shoot, I don't know what I'm doing. So I think the best hiring advice I can say is, first, people are usually afraid to hire. Yep. And they have really bad misconceptions about what hiring is. They're headaches. People can't do this as well as me. I might as well just do it myself. Now I'm on the hook for their payroll. What if I can't afford them 90 days from now? And usually all of those misconceptions or your bad experiences you've had is because your lack of hiring and interviewing skills, as well as your onboarding and training. So if you are always attracting not great people on your team and you are firing and it is 100% on you. Like, you just don't know how to hire yet. And here's the thing, I can say it because I remember like my first few interviews of being so sick to my stomach I was more nervous than they probably were interviewing to work for me. Cause you're like, what do I ask? What do I say? What are they going to say? What if I don't know what to say next? And there's like dead space, So you just have to get good by practicing. But I also think we have to step into understanding we're probably not natural born leaders and managers. So how do we start to read leadership books? How do we start to understand there's room for improvement with us so we can start to enhance the way that we teach and we train and we onboard? So I would say, first of all, let yourself go the route of wanting to build your own dream team, but know that it is going to take you a little while to figure this out and you will make bad decisions. And then unfortunately, you'll let that skew yourself forever. And you'll tell me 10 years later, you're still a solopreneur because of this one bad experience of a D player that you brought in your team.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I'm already now kind of reimagining some of the hires over the years as well, and I'm sure you've gone back and thought about those. And but it's cool as you get a system down, as you start to get better and better at that process. Then I'm guessing you get to this point where it's like, now it's exciting. It's like, hey, how could I add 10 more jobs this year? How could I, how could we expand? And just like, plug person in there, plug the right person in there. I think that's awesome. Can we talk a little bit about balance? You talked about productivity. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hit so much on the productivity in the business as much as being productive in business so that you have whatever you might call the balance in life. You have the ability, right? I think me, find myself sometimes too deep in business and then burned out over here. And then I take my own little mental vacation for a week and I don't do the work I'm supposed to do. And I've had times and seasons in life when I feel a really good flow. And there's times when I feel out of balance with health or with family or with work. You seem like a person who is pretty well emotionally balanced. Take care of yourself physically. You're running your businesses. What is the secret to life and work balance?
So first, I think you kind of have to make a lot of mistakes here to figure out what you don't want so you can create what you do want, right? I don't think we even really understand. Like, some people say to me, no, I really want to be able to retire out of my business and not work at all. And I look at this person, I'm like, you would never do that. Like, you love working. You are so driven. You would never sit at home during the middle of the day and do nothing, right? So I think we have to understand what does feel good to us. How many hours do you want to work? What is a good time in your work week to not burn yourself out? What are the signs that you are getting burnt out, and what can you do in the future to not have that happen? So first, I think most people overwork and they don't know how to shut off. So I think the best thing you can do is setting boundaries of when you will be working and when you will be shutting off and sticking to them.
It's good.
So I wrap up every day around 3 or 4, depending on the day, and my laptop closes. It stays in my office, and I go into my living room. I will go on to my day, and I do not come back in until the next morning. I never, ever open my computer in the evening, ever.
Never, ever, ever. I love the absoluteness of that.
Yes. So,
even if you forgot that one last thing.
Nope.
Even if you got that one email that you had to go out?
Nope.
I
Well,
love you
first of
for
all,
that.
the
That's
reason
awesome.
why that is not a thing is because it would be on somebody else's plate.
That's right.
Right. So
Because you
I
got
am
someone for you.
not anymore doing some of the tedious things that I would have to be like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I don't send out emails. So I don't even, that wouldn't be on my plate. Do you know what I'm saying?
I love that.
Now, did I used to be bad? 100%. That's why I know you can't do that. I can't do that. I physically, mentally, emotionally cannot work all evening, put the kids to sleep, go back to work. I can't. My brain doesn't shut off. I get horrible sleep. I wake up feeling exhausted, right? So for me, I started to realize I need the time to just recharge. And I also want to be with my children and my spouse when I close up shop at 3 or 4. So for me, my boundaries are nothing in the evenings and nothing Saturday, Sunday. Like that's what I stick to. So again, what does that feel like for you? How many hours do you want to work? I'm working like 9 to 3 because that's when my kids are in school.
Got it.
You may not have kids. You might say, I want to work 9 to 6, and that feels good to me. Great. You might pick 7 in the morning till 10. You might go on a 2 hour lunch break with a really nice walk and come. It just has to feel good for you. So I think really being self aware has been major for me. And that's why I feel balanced, but I don't tell you, like, hey, Matt, you definitely have to follow my schedule, right? Because that
Sure.
might not be the way you recharge. And I'm introverted, so I love being in my office by myself with just me and my computer. Put me on a full day of meetings with the team, and I am drained at the end of that day.
Right. And let's be clear, as an
Yeah.
introvert using Myers-Briggs, you
Yeah.
love it, you're excited, you love the people, right?
Mhm.
But it takes energy expression, and by the end you just need to plug back in and
Yeah.
recharge. I think definitely a lot of people on the introverted side in entrepreneurship
Yeah.
that have a lot, there's like self-judgment, right? There's that self-talk of I should be this, or but I love people, but I don't want to be around people. What's wrong with me? And I
Mhm.
love hearing from
Yeah.
someone as successful as yourself, Stacy, that it's like, yeah, I could spend all day with my team that I hired and I love, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I'm done.
Yes.
Right? I
And
need
I
to
think the
plug the phone back in.
misconception is like people will say, really, you're introverted? You sound so outgoing.
Sure.
Outgoing is not have anything to do with being introverted. So I can come on here and sound confident and look extroverted, but the second I'm done, it's like computer closed. I'm like checking out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it really is just the way you recharge. Some people love, like, the pandemic hurt them so bad because they don't get to be with their friends at work, and they are like, I just want to get back in the office with everybody working there. Yeah, like,
Yeah. Welcome to me. Yeah. My life.
yeah. So
I want to
that
get back on the
is
road. I want to travel. I want to speak.
100%. So it just depends on who you are and what feels good to you.
Yeah, I love to. You're talking about picking your schedule, but
Mhm.
the principle behind it is having a schedule that's preset, and then you
Yeah.
can flex and play with things in there. One of the things I hear a lot from, and again, I'm talking kind of solopreneurs or
Yeah.
early on stages as well. It's like, well, I can't just set my schedule because I never know. Well, you're choosing that, right? It's like
Yeah.
even if you don't know exactly what's going to go in that day, you can still set up, I'm going to work from 10 to 4 on Tuesday,
Correct.
and that's my day for coaching calls, or that's my day for team meetings, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, Stacy, of blocking time for different categories and styles. So it's not so much that as soon as it's 3 p.m., I'll never do
Yeah.
anything, right? I have my own version of that, but what I
Yeah.
do is like Wednesday is my recording day. I go on shows, I record shows. That's my day for that. I don't
Mhm.
do sales that day. I don't do team meetings that day. I don't take the day off. That's what Wednesday is.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah,
Monday is a
absolutely.
family day, and I don't care if ands or buts. I'm with my son, I'm with my wife, or actually it's her day that I'll
Right.
take him and go do something with it. But that's
Mhm.
become really important. So it's blocking time is really key. I love that.
Yeah.
When it comes to being efficient with time,
Yes.
I think there's another piece that gets missed. It's like if time was food, it's having high calorie dense food. Being efficient with time so that you don't find yourself at midnight going, oh, I got the one more email. What's your method of approaching the time that you do work to make sure that it doesn't drag on and it takes 4 hours to do what could have been 15 minutes?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the reasons that people have to come back to work or they can't shut off or they're checking their email on their phone is because your to-do list never ends, but you're trying to end it. You're trying to
There we
check the
go.
last box, right? So I have realized 19 years in that that does not exist. You will never have a done complete checklist. It will not happen. So because I've realized that, then there will always be one more email to send. There will always
Always.
be one more thing that I forgot to do, but it can wait, right? So I love I hired somebody in my studios, and I said to her one time, please don't call me unless it's an emergency. And she said, she came from a dental practice, and she said, I'm not being disrespectful, but what in the world would ever be in an emergency in a dance studio? Right? Because
Yeah,
she's thinking like there really are dental emergencies where like
sure.
somebody needs something. She's like, what would that be? Because I just can't even imagine that. And that moment of, you're right. Like there really are, I can think of one situation we had where there's like a tornado and they didn't know what to do. Okay, great. You can
I
call
feel like
me.
that's an actual emergency.
And that actual. But if a mom calls and complains, it can wait until tomorrow if I'm back in tomorrow at 9, right?
Yeah.
So I
And
think there
there's a
was
good
that
chance, to your point earlier, sorry, that with the right training and onboarding, even complaints and refunds and customer service issues, they can all be categorized and taught, can't they?
100%. So yeah, no one calls me ever for my studio to have a complaint like that. But it was just this like reminder of, we think it's urgent. We think that email has to be sent out now, or shoot, I was going to do this tonight. And a lot of this stuff isn't urgent. What we have to start to get good at is prioritizing.
There you go.
So the list is never going to end. And if you are not working in a way of, these are the biggest things that must be done, the problem that I see is we think everything is a priority and we want to get all the things done. And then we put that on our team's shoulders. So if you have like a VA that you're working with, they probably have like 72 different things you told them to do,
Yeah.
and they don't know which one you want done first. So now they're guessing, but they can't read your mind. So they're getting some things done that just look easy and they can quickly cross off their plate, but it's not the number one thing you wanted to happen today. So in my business, when I'm working with anybody, they have their daily routines of like, this is what you do every Monday. But on top of their routines, they have projects, and their projects are literally labeled high, medium, low. You cannot work on anything low until all the mediums are done. You cannot work on a medium until all the highs are done.
So
So
good.
when I do this for myself, I prioritize my projects, but I also do it for my team, because what happens is you'll get somebody that's, you'll do this, you'll personally do this. You think, well, I've got 7 things to do, and like 4 and 5 are super easy and I could get them done in like 2 minutes. So I'm going to do those, right?
Right.
Or you're like, oh, I really want to work on this one thing, so I'm going to work on that, even though it's not due for 4 months.
Right.
Right.
It's like the easy wins. It's the more pleasurable one.
Yep. Yep. So
Smaller.
as somebody in the coaching space, I create a lot of content, as I am sure you do too. So sometimes certain content or courses or freebies or something is more exciting. Mine is always prioritized in the date it's due, and I do not get to go out of order.
Really
So
good.
then you get to procrastinate with the things that you can procrastinate on, and then everything else must be done by deadline.
That's awesome. And I can see in your eyes too,
Yeah.
that you mean it, that you live
Yes.
by it. There's advice that comes of, this is what you should do, and also what I should do. And then there's the advice of, this is what I do because it works, and I don't vary from my own rules.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that about you.
I can show you pages and pages of like check boxes of things I have to get done.
Yeah.
They're there. They will never go away. I am not telling you I'm the girl to teach you how to get it all done. I'm the girl to actually share with you what actually should be done and in what order. And let's just get as much of it done as we need to that will actually move the needle in your business.
Yeah, moving the needle. You're actually focusing on the results, not the feeling that you get when tasks are finished. Because if we're going after a feeling, there's a lot easier, faster ways to get a good feeling. Have a bar of ice cream, have a drink, do something. But if you're going after a result, not a feeling, then you got to get the priorities done. I love that. Hey, Foot Traffic Podcast. I get it now. I love the name. I think it's super clever. Tell us a little bit about the origin story for the podcast. When did you start that? How long into the dancing were you doing it? And tell me about this kind of the journey of from just running dancing studios to doing coaching. I see it looks like a ClickFunnels record, an award on your back wall. You're doing all that coaching, podcasting world. Tell me about the transition there.
Yeah. So Again, naturally, I like to lead. I like to help. I like to serve. So I remember the first time somebody called me up, they owned a local karate studio and they were like, hey, you kind of seem like you know what you're doing. Your parking lot's always full. My niece goes there and like they rave about you. Would this be a conflict of interest or could I like sit down and pick your brain and just ask you some questions? And I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, sure.
Dance
So this
studio,
guy,
karate studio, a
yeah, I'm
lot of
like children's
similarities.
industry. I'm like, yeah, okay, made sense. So I was like, sure, come on over. So he came to my building, taught him for a little bit. He was like blown away. I'm like, oh, okay, older than me, in business longer than me. So I'm like, wow, like I might really know what I'm doing. Like, okay, this is good. So then a dance mom opened up a chocolate shop and she wanted advice. And I'm like, I don't know anything about chocolate besides just liking chocolate. Like I don't know what I'm teaching this person, but she's like, no, can I just come in and pick your brain? I'm like, sure. So I do that, build a little bit more confidence. All of a sudden, my friend who's a doctor wants to open a Medi Spa. I'm like, how am I teaching a doctor? Like now this is getting weird for me. This is getting crazy. However, every time I would do something, I would see in their eyes, like they didn't know that stuff. And I am teaching them and they're getting it and it's clicking. So about 6 years ago, I decided, okay, I'm going to actually do this and consult and help other small business owners build what I've kind of built in my business, focusing on marketing, building a team, scaling all of that. Foot Traffic, the podcast is now over 5 years old. So we've had it for a while. And it just kind of has organically grown and I found my voice and I found what I love to talk about and what I keep coming back to. And it's just been a really fun journey. It's been, this is the most I've ever felt in alignment with what I'm doing. I love business, but I love teaching business to other people that they are struggling. They are maybe not making the money they want. They're overworked. They're underpaid. Like I've done all those things. I've been all those things. And it's like, I want to help people not feel like that.
That's outstanding. And I love, so you're talking not just, of course, the studios, but do you focus on like retail owners or owners that have like physical people coming into a front? Is that the process or is it really expanded and grown into much more?
I already attracted people that were online because I have an online business and they're watching me do it, right? Then my brick and mortars are going, how do I do what you're doing with your online business and keep my brick and mortar?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have the pandemic where they're
Everyone's
like, I don't even want this brick and mortar anymore. Like, teach me how to just do the online business. So half of my audience is online and half are brick and mortar. And of the half that are brick and mortar, half of them also have an online business.
Right. So you're 75% online anyway, because that's what people are wanting.
Yeah.
And you do it both. That's outstanding.
It doesn't even matter. Foundational business principles work in any industry. Doesn't matter what we're teaching. It all is the same thing.
Well, that's what I was going to say I was just doing an interview an hour ago and saying the exact same thing that, I went from a mortgage business and a real estate business that I own to doing a coaching business and creating a speaker training business. And 95% is the same thing. Right. Yep. It's payroll 100%. And it's HR and it's marketing and it's sales and all that. But sometimes people will feel like, oh, I'm not passionate about this content, whatever it is anymore. And they think that if we start a new business with different content, then they're going to be passionate about it. And it's like, look, you don't need to be passionate about the content necessarily. You could, right? It's great to be passionate about dancing and marketing, but you don't have to. Stacy, this has been awesome. Thank you for your time and your candor. This is just you're an incredible person to know. Thank you for you.
I appreciate it, Matt. And this has been super fun. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, where can we find out? I got, some of your stuff here. We're going to put it all over the show notes for the on demand. But for anyone listening in the car right now, if you're on the AM FM dial, what's the best way to get in contact with you? And I know you have some gifts out there as well.
Yeah. So the Foot Traffic Podcast, you can find that anywhere with podcasts. At Stacy Tuschl on all the social platforms. Instagram is probably my favorite. Definitely the one, if you want to reach out to me, I'm in my DMs there. Not so much on Facebook.
On Instagram.
If you want to actually get me, you're going to get my team on the other one. That's like, hi, this is Kristen from Stacy's team. Whereas on Instagram, you're probably going to get me.
Wow. Yeah. And then obviously TikTok, you're going to be big on TikTok. Right?
What's so funny is I don't dance in any of my videos, even though I'm a dancer. However, I did just get to work with Gary Vee's team for a day. And they literally said to me, you need to go all in with TikTok. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, shoot.
I believe his team would say that.
Yeah, so we're like doing all the videos and getting all of that ready right now.
Good
Though I'm
for
like,
you.
I can't even believe I'm doing this, but okay. But no dancing, just like good content. And then my book, if you want to go grab a copy of my book for free, just pay the shipping. It is implementationcode.co/free book.
That is awesome. So implementation code, phenomenal book. You can get that for free. Just cover shipping. Implementationcode.co/free book. Head over to Apple Podcasts or Google, and in the show notes, you'll see all the links for everything Stacy and following up with her. And of course, slide into those DMs and you might even have a real conversation. That would be amazing. Stacy, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, that's the show for this week. Hey, thanks to my guest, Stacy Tuschl, amazing founder, amazing entrepreneur, online marketer, you name it, she does it. Make sure you check out the Foot Traffic podcast and follow Stacy on all social media channels and get that free book, The Implementation Code. Cannot wait to get my hands on it as well. Awesome, awesome time. Hey, stay out there, stay driven, do what you do, and I'll see you next week with another driven entrepreneur. Bye-bye.